A police officer saves a black baby abandoned in a dumpster, but months later he is shaken by surprising news. Engineer Tavares is a 32-year-old police officer who works diligently in Mexico City. He is known for his dedication and commitment to the community, always willing to help those who need it most. On an ordinary night, after a long shift at work, Engineer decides to take advantage of the cool night breeze and take a walk through the silent streets of the city. He walks calmly, reflecting on his life and his plans for the future. Suddenly, your walk is interrupted by a sound that chills your spine. He hears a faint cry, almost imperceptible but unmistakable. It's a baby's cry. Engineer immediately stops and strains his ears, trying to locate the source of that distressing sound. Following the sound, he approaches a row of trash cans lined up against a brick wall. Your heart quickens as the crying becomes clearer and more desperate. Reaching the last trash container, Engineer hesitates for a moment, afraid of what he might find. Taking a deep breath, he lifts the lid and what he sees leaves him completely shocked. Inside the container, wrapped in dirty blankets, is a small black baby, her face red and crumpled from crying. Engineer's heart breaks when he sees that scene. He cannot understand how someone could be so cruel as to abandon such a fragile and innocent life like that. With all the kindness in the world, Engineer takes the baby in her arms, feeling the hot, feverish skin against hers. He murmurs soft words of comfort, trying to calm her. "It's okay, little one. I'm here now," he whispers, a mixture of pain and determination in his voice. As he holds her, the baby's cries begin to subside, and she opens her big, tearful eyes, looking directly at Engineer. It is at that moment that he feels a deep and inexplicable connection with that little life. Wasting no time, Engineer takes out his phone and calls emergency services. "911, what's your emergency?" He responds to the attendant. "I'm Officer Engineer Tavares. I just found a baby abandoned in a trash container. She's alive, but she appears to have a fever. We need an ambulance at the corner of Quinta and Olmo immediately," he explains, urgency in his voice. "An ambulance is on the way. Please remain with the baby until we arrive," the dispatcher responds. Hanging up the phone, Engineer focuses on the baby, who is now staring at him intently, as if she knows he is his only hope. He rocks her gently, trying to keep her calm, playing with his little fingers and murmuring comforting words. "Who left you here, my angel? How could someone do this to you?" he says, his heart heavy with sadness. Every minute that passes seems like an eternity as he waits for the ambulance to arrive. Finally, he hears the distant sound of sirens, and a wave of relief washes over him. The ambulance arrives, and two paramedics rush toward him with a stretcher. Engineer quickly explains how he found the baby, and they carefully take her from his arms, placing her on the stretcher. "She has a fever, but I didn't see any visible injuries," Engineer informs the paramedics. "Let's take her to the hospital and run some tests," one of the paramedics responds. "Thanks for keeping her," says the other. "I'm going to follow the ambulance to the hospital," responds Engineer, determined not to leave the baby alone. The chaos of the emergency room mixes with the urgency in Engineer Tavares' heart as he follows the gurney where the tiny baby lies, wrapped in blankets. The paramedics lead her quickly, their voices mixing instructions and medical assessments. Engineer watches, her heart tight with worry, as the professionals transfer her to a hospital bed. The environment is cold and impersonal, but Engineer's eyes are fixed on the baby, who will soon be called Livia. Nurse Katerina, with a calm and professional face, approaches Engineer and, in a soft voice, asks about the state in which she found her. She was in the trash, wrapped in dirty blankets. "She had a fever and looked very fragile," Engineer says, voice cracking as he recalls the scene. Katerina gives her a look of understanding before moving on to help stabilize Livia. The baby is quickly taken to the emergency room, while Engineer calls his boss to explain the situation. Allowed to remain in the hospital, he waits anxiously in the hallway, his heart still heavy with the image of the abandoned baby. After what seems like an endless amount of time, a doctor comes out to talk to Ajinor. The baby is stable for now. She has mild pneumonia, likely due to exposure. We are administering antibiotics and monitoring her closely, explains the doctor. Can I see her? Ajinor asks, with concern in his voice. Yes, you can. She's in room 204, replies the doctor. While the health professionals work, Ajinor remains next to Livia, holding her small hand. You're going to be okay, Livia, he whispers, giving her a name that symbolizes hope and life. The name Livia seems right, as if it had always been hers. Ajinor feels even more connected to this fragile life he found in such desperate circumstances. The following days are a roller coaster of emotions for Ajinor. Every time he enters the hospital, his heart races thinking about Livia's progress. He spends hours at her bedside, closely watching the monitors that track her vital signs. Every improvement, no matter how small, is a victory. Every little smile or look of recognition from Livia is a ray of hope that brightens the dark days of worry. Katerina, the nurse, becomes a pillar of support for Ajinor. She always has a kind and encouraging word, and her professionalism gives you confidence that Livia is in good hands. She's a fighter, Ajinor, says Katerina in one of the many moments in which she finds him alongside Livia. She is responding well to antibiotics. He keeps talking to her, holding her hand. That makes a huge difference. And Ajinor does exactly that. He holds Livia's little hand and talks to her about everything and nothing, trying to convey security and love to her. He tells stories from his childhood, shares his dreams, and even softly sings lullabies. Despite the medical environment around her, Ajinor tries to create a bubble of normality and affection. Livia, in turn, seems to respond to this unconditional love. Her eyes follow Ajinor's voice, and he swears she smiles a little more every day. She is small and fragile, but her strength is undeniable. Pneumonia is being fought with the best medical care and Ajinor's unwavering affection. He silently commits to being present every day, to never let Livia feel abandoned again. From the moment he rescued her, he felt an intense and protective connection with that little life, which he now knows as Livia. The image of her fragile, crying face never leaves his mind, and he finds himself thinking about her every moment. At the hospital, Ajinor is a constant visitor. Every day, without fail, he is there, next to Livia. The hospital's white, sterile corridors are cold and impersonal, but Ajinor's presence at Livia's bedside brings a feeling of warmth and security. He holds her little hand and talks to her, even though he knows she can't understand her words. He feels that his presence and her voice can offer the comfort she so desperately needs. Each visit Ajinor arrives at the hospital with his heart racing, eager to see how Livia is progressing. He watches the doctors and nurses closely, searching their faces for signs of good news. When he enters Livia's room, his gaze softens. He approaches her carefully, as if she were made of glass, and whispers words of affection. Hi, little one. Daddy's here, he says, feeling a surge of love and protection he's never experienced before. Livia, although so small and vulnerable, seems to recognize Ajinor. His big, curious eyes follow her movements, and she calms down when she hears his voice. Ajinor is surprised by the strength of this connection, something he never imagined possible so quickly. With each passing day, this bond grows stronger, transforming what began as an act of compassion into deep and unconditional love. The nurses at the hospital, especially Katerina, notice Ajinor's dedication. You're really amazing with her, says Katerina, with a warm smile. She's lucky to have someone like you by her side. Ajinor humbly thanks him. For him, it's not a matter of luck, but of destiny. He feels like he was put in Livia's path for a reason, and he's determined to honor that. The days at the hospital are long, but Ajinor never gets tired. He reads stories to Livia, sings lullabies, and even learned to tell silly jokes to make her smile. Every little smile from Livia is a victory, a sign that she is healing not only physically, but emotionally as well. Agenor knows that, in addition to medical care, love and safety are essential for Livia's recovery. While spending hours at Livia's bedside, Agenor reflects on his own life. He never imagined that one day he would be in this position, but now he can't see himself any other way. He sees a future with Livia, imagines teaching her to ride a bike, taking her to school and watching her grow up healthy and happy. Every thought about the future is filled with a desire to protect her and give her everything she deserves. The connection between Agenor and Livia becomes the center of his life. He takes leave from work so he can be with her every day, making it clear to everyone that Livia is her priority. Agenor is facing one of the most important decisions in his life. Since he found Livia, the baby abandoned in the trash, his life has changed profoundly. The emotional connection he feels for her grows every day, and now he is faced with a decision that will define his and Livia's future: adoption. Agenor spends hours reflecting on what it means to adopt Livia. He knows it won't be an easy journey. The bureaucracy, the legal challenges, the changes in his own life, it all weighs on his shoulders. But, when he looks into Livia's innocent eyes, he feels a deep certainty that this is the right choice. The decision to adopt Livia is not just a legal act. For Agenor, it is an emotional and moral commitment. He remembers the first moments he held her in his arms, when she cried helplessly in the cold of the night. The sense of protection he felt at that moment did not disappear. On the contrary, it has strengthened over time. Visiting Livia in the hospital every day is not just a routine, but a sacred ritual for Agenor. He talks to her about his hopes and dreams for their future together. He imagines taking her home, decorating her room with soft colors and educational toys. He wants to be the father she deserves, giving her love, security, and every possible opportunity in life. Agenor knows that the decision to adopt Livia will also have an impact on his personal life. He reflects on his relationships, his career, and his own aspirations. But every time he sees Livia's fragile smile, all uncertainty dissipates. He feels a renewed sense of purpose, a mission that goes beyond anything he has ever experienced. By sharing her decision with close friends and family, Agenor finds support and encouragement. Some question whether he is ready to take on such a huge responsibility, while others admire his courage and determination. For Agenor, however, the opinions of others matter less than his own instinct to protect and care for Livia. Every step of the adoption process is an emotional roller coaster for Agenor. He fills out forms, attends meetings with social workers, and prepares for upcoming assessments. Each piece of paper signed is one step closer to legally formalizing the bond he already feels so deeply. The joy of taking care of Livia is overshadowed by the growing tension in his relationship with Rosalina, his girlfriend. Rosalina cannot understand Agenor's decision to adopt Livia, and, with each conversation, the frustration between them increases. From the beginning, Rosalina expresses her concerns. She sees Livia's adoption as an overwhelming responsibility that will completely change their lives. Agenor, this is not something we planned, she says, her eyes full of concern. We've barely started to build our life together, and now you want to adopt a baby? Agenor tries to explain what he feels, the deep and inexplicable connection that emerged between him and Livia. Rosalina, I can't just turn my back on her. From the moment I held her in my arms, I knew I had to protect her, he responds, his voice full of emotion. But Rosalina cannot share the same perspective. For her, adoption represents a drastic deviation from her plans. What about us? What about our dreams and plans? I want to have a family with you, but not like this, not now, she argues, her voice revealing a mix of sadness and frustration. These discussions become frequent and increasingly intense. Rosalina feels that she is losing Agenor to a responsibility she never chose. She begins to distance herself, her messages become shorter, and her visits less frequent. When they are together, the tension is palpable. They avoid talking about Livia, but the baby's invisible presence permeates every interaction. Agenor feels torn between his love for Rosalina and the responsibility he feels for Livia. He sees the pain in Rosalina's eyes, but at the same time, he cannot ignore Livia's need. He tries to find a balance, but the situation only seems to get worse. He even wonders if he can be happy without Livia, but every time he visits the hospital and sees her smile, his determination is strengthened. Rosalina, on the other hand, feels betrayed. She understands Agenor's compassion, but cannot accept the sudden change in her life plans. Agenor, that's not fair. I didn't sign up for this, she says, in a particularly heated exchange. I want a life with you, but I feel like you've already chosen it for us. Their mutual friends notice the growing tension and try to intervene, but their words do little to ease the weight they both feel. Agenor feels that he is losing Rosalina, but at the same time, he knows that he cannot abandon Livia. His duality of feelings consumes him, and he finds himself increasingly alone in his decision. The emotional exhaustion is evident. Agenor begins spending nights in the hospital, next to Livia, and moves further and further away from Rosalina. He finds solace in the little girl's presence, feeling a peace that he can't find elsewhere. But guilt also weighs heavily, knowing that his decision is tearing his relationship apart. Rosalina also suffers. She loves Agenor, but feels she has lost him to a responsibility she cannot share. Conversations between them become brief and formal, and the intimacy they once shared is replaced by a growing chasm. Rosalina begins to consider the possibility that they may not be able to overcome this crisis. The situation reaches a breaking point when Rosalina confronts Agenor, tears streaming down her face. I can't live like this anymore, Agenor. You need to choose, she says, her voice full of pain. Agenor feels his world falling apart, knowing that any choice he makes will have devastating consequences. While Rosalina waits for an answer, Agenor feels the weight of responsibility on her shoulders. He looks at Livia, so small and vulnerable, and knows that her decision isn't just about him or Rosalina. It's about giving that child the chance at a life full of love and security. Agenor's constant presence at Livia's side does not go unnoticed by the nursing staff. Among them all, one person stands out: Katerina, a dedicated nurse with a generous heart. Katerina works the night shift and, from the first meeting with Agenor, realizes the sincerity and depth of her feelings for Livia. She sees the determination in his eyes and the loving way he holds the baby's small hand. Katerina also feels that she can offer more than medical care. She can offer her emotional support and guidance. One night, while Agenor is sitting next to Livia's crib, Katerina approaches her, bringing a cup of hot coffee. You look like you need it, she says with a gentle smile. Agenor accepts the cup and sighs, feeling the weight of his worries. Katerina sits next to her, maintaining a welcoming and understanding expression. She's a fighter, comments Katerina, looking at Livia. And you too, Agenor. Taking care of a baby is not easy, especially in circumstances like these. Agenor shakes his head, grateful for Katerina's empathy. Sometimes I feel like I'm on a lonely path. But when I look at her, I know I'm doing the right thing. Katerina, realizing Agenor's need for guidance, begins to share valuable information about the adoption process. I've helped a few families with adoption before, she says softly. I can guide you through the necessary steps. I know it's complicated, but you're not alone. Katerina's words offer Agenor immediate comfort. Knowing that there is someone willing to help you navigate bureaucratic and emotional challenges is an immense relief. Thank you, Katerina, he says, gratitude evident in his voice. I really need all the help I can get. In the following weeks, Katerina becomes a constant figure in Agenor's life. She helps you fill in forms, arranges meetings with social workers, and offers practical advice on how to deal with the authorities. But her support goes beyond the administrative. She becomes a friend and confidant, someone with whom Ajinor can share his anxieties and hopes. Katerina stands out not only for her competence, but also for her sensitivity. She notices when Ajinor is particularly overwhelmed and always knows the right words to say. Remember, Ajinor, you're doing something amazing, she says one quiet night. Giving Livia a chance at a life full of love is one of the noblest acts anyone can do. The relationship between Ajinor and Katerina strengthens, based on trust and mutual respect. He begins to depend on your support not only for legal procedures, but also for his emotional stability. Katerina, I don't know what I would do without you, he admits one night, his voice full of emotion. You have been a pillar of strength for me. Katerina smiles, touched by Ajinor's words. You're strong too, Ajinor. And never forget that we're all here to help you and Livia have the life you deserve. This friendship and support become fundamental for Ajinor as he faces the ups and downs of the adoption process. At every appointment, at every visit to the social worker, Katerina is there, offering a word of encouragement, a shoulder to cry on, and sometimes just a silent presence that conveys understanding and support. Her friendship becomes a beacon of hope, illuminating the uncertain path full of obstacles that he travels. The hospital's doctors and nurses watch Livia's progress closely. Under the attentive care of the medical team, she begins to show signs of improvement. His cheeks take on a healthy color and his cry, previously weak, becomes stronger and more vigorous. Ajinor feels profound relief every time he sees these signs of recovery. She's a warrior, says Nurse Katerina, smiling as she checks Livia's vital signs. The pneumonia is going away, and the antibiotics are working. She's getting stronger every day. Ajinor looks at Katerina, his eyes reflecting a mixture of gratitude and hope. Do you think she'll be okay? He asks, his voice full of emotion. Katerina puts her hand on Ajinor's shoulder. Doctors are optimistic. If she continues to respond well to treatment, there is a good chance of a full recovery. These words are a balm for Ajinor's soul. He allows himself to feel a glimmer of hope, something that has been in short supply these past few days. During daily visits, Ajinor notices small changes in Livia. Her appetite returns, and she begins to breastfeed more vigorously. Her eyes, previously closed by fever, now stay open longer, observing the world around her. Ajinor speaks to her in a low voice, telling her stories and promising that he will always be by her side. You're going to get out of this, little one. We're going to get through this together. Doctors keep Ajinor updated on each advancement. She is recovering well, says Dr. Mendez at one of the update meetings. The pneumonia is almost completely under control, and tests show it is getting stronger. Ajinor feels a wave of relief flood his body. He closes his eyes for a moment, muttering a silent prayer of gratitude. Katerina continues to be a constant and encouraging presence. I see so many children passing through here, but there is something special about Livia, she comments. There's something special about you, Ajinor. Your dedication makes all the difference. Ajinor holds Katerina's hand, a gesture of gratitude that says more than words could express. I don't know what I would do without you, Katerina. You and the entire team have been incredible. The days pass, and each one brings a new milestone in Livia's progress. She starts to smile more, a smile that lights up Ajinor's heart and fills the room with hope. The small movements of her arms and legs become more coordinated, and her energy visibly grows. You're getting stronger, my little warrior, Ajinor whispers, voice cracking with emotion. Katerina, always observant, notices the transformation in Ajinor too. You're more optimistic, she comments one quiet afternoon. It's hard not to be, seeing how she's improving, Ajinor replies, his eyes shining with new hope. As she gives me strength. Every smile, every look reminds me why I'm doing this. The doctors schedule a day for a final assessment, which will determine when Livia can go home. Agenor is nervous but optimistic. He spends the night before holding Livia, feeling the warmth of her small and fragile body. We'll make it, Livia. We'll go home soon, he promises, his voice soft and comforting. Finally, the day arrives. Dr. Mendez and Katerina meet with Agenor. The news is good, announces Dr. Mendez. Livia is ready to go home. She will still need care and monitoring, but we believe she is out of danger. Agenor feels tears running down his face, a mix of relief and joy. He hugs Livia carefully, feeling his heart beat strong with the promise of a future together. Thank you, he says to Katerina and Dr. Mendez, gratitude oozing from every word. As he holds Livia, ready to take her home, Agenor knows that this battle was just the beginning. But with Livia's progress and the support of people like Katerina, he feels he is prepared for any challenge that lies ahead. And above all, he is ready to give Livia the life full of love and protection that she deserves. The first steps are bureaucratic and intimidating. Agenor meets with Marilia, a social worker with a soft voice and steady gaze, who helps him with the forms and legal requirements. It's going to be a long process, warns Marilia, but I'm here to help at every stage. Agenor feels a mix of anxiety and hope. He knows that every paper signed, every meeting scheduled is a step closer to making Livia his real daughter. At the hospital, the team continues to support Agenor tirelessly. Katerina, the nurse who has been a constant source of encouragement, often meets Agenor in the hallways, offering words of encouragement and a reassuring smile. You're doing great, she says on one such occasion. Livia is very lucky to have someone like you. Agenor feels his heart warm with these words, gaining strength to continue. Every question asked by social workers is an opportunity for him to show how committed he is. Why do you want to adopt Livia? He asks one of the evaluators. Agenor responds sincerely, his voice choked with emotion. I found her in a moment of desperation. Since then, I feel like I am responsible for her. I want to give her the life she deserves, full of love and security. Marilia accompanies you on home visits, assessing your environment and offering advice on how to prepare your home to receive Livia. Agenor transforms her small apartment, creating a welcoming and safe room for the girl. He paints the walls soft colors, sets up a crib and fills the shelves with toys and books. Every detail is thought out with care, each item chosen with the hope that Livia feels loved and protected. Agenor spends hours in queues, deals with complicated documents and navigates the ups and downs of the legal system. In moments of frustration, he remembers Livia's smile, the night spent beside her crib in the hospital, and this gives him the strength to continue. It'll be worth it, he repeats to himself, like a mantra, amid the paperwork and hearings. The hospital team is also part of it. Dr. Mendez and Katerina write letters of recommendation, highlighting Agenor's commitment and dedication. He was here every day, writes Katerina. He cares deeply about Livia and is prepared to be the father she needs. These letters are attached to the lawsuit, strengthening Agenor's case. Finally, the day of the decisive hearing arrives. Agenor wears his best suit, hands sweaty with nervousness. Marilia is by his side, offering moral support. In court, the judge carefully reviews the case. Every second feels like an eternity to Agenor, his heart pounding in his chest. He takes a deep breath, anxiously awaiting the decision. When the judge finally looks up, Agenor is shaken by surprising news. Mr. Tavares, it is clear that you have a deep love and commitment towards Livia. I am pleased to grant the adoption. The words echo in Agenor's mind, and he feels a wave of relief and happiness take over his being. Tears stream down his face as he thanks the judge, Marilia, and everyone who supported him. Back at the hospital, Agenor runs to tell Katerina and Dr. Mendez the news. We achieved, he exclaims, voice shaking with emotion. Katerina hugs him, her eyes shining with joy. Livia is going to have the best father in the world, Livia is ready to go home, as she says. Aginor's heart quickens, and he feels a wave of happiness wash over him. We're going home, my little one, he whispers, his voice breaking. Every step down the hospital corridor is a journey of memories and emotions. He remembers the days spent next to Livia's crib, the sleepless nights, the tears of worry and the smiles of hope. Now, all of this culminates in this moment of pure joy. He knows that, despite the loss of Rosalina, his decision to adopt Livia is the rightest one he has ever made. Upon leaving the hospital, the sun shines brightly, as if the universe is celebrating with them. Aginor carefully places Livia in the car, adjusting her seat belt with loving hands. Arriving at the apartment, Aginor enters with Livia in his arms. The room he prepared for her is ready, a welcoming space full of love. He gently places her in her crib, watching as she explores her new surroundings curiously. This is our home now, Livia, he says, feeling profound happiness at seeing her comfortable and safe. The following days are a mix of challenges and precious moments. Aginor quickly adapts to the role of father, learning to care for Livia with unwavering dedication. Every cry is answered with patience, every smile is celebrated with joy. The routine of changing diapers, preparing bottles and calming Livia at night becomes a dance of love and care. Despite the difficulties, Aginor finds indescribable satisfaction in each small victory. He sees the world through Livia's eyes, rediscovering the beauty in simple things. Walks in the park become magical adventures. Reading nights are filled with enchanting stories, and playtime on the living room floor is filled with genuine laughter. Each visit to the pediatrician is a celebrated milestone. Each new tooth that emerges is a small victory. Aginor is moved by Livia's first steps, her first babbling words, and each new progress she makes. He feels a deep, unbreakable connection with her, a sense that they were destined to find each other and build a life together. The story of Aginor and Livia begins to gain prominence in the local media, a moving narrative that touches the hearts of everyone who knows it. The evening news carries the headline, "Hero Cop Adopts Abandoned Baby, Transforms Lives." Viewers stay tuned, eyes fixed on the screen as the story unfolds. Reporters gather in front of the police station where Aginor works, eager for an interview. When Aginor leaves, he is greeted by a sea of cameras and microphones. Officer Aginor, can you tell us how it feels to be recognized for your heroic action? He asks one of the reporters. Aginor, with a shy smile, replies, I don't consider myself a hero. I did what anyone would do when finding a child in danger. Livia needed me, and I was there for her. As he speaks, the emotion is palpable. Every word is filled with sincerity and love, and this does not go unnoticed by viewers. The story is reproduced in newspapers, radio, and social media platforms. People from all over the city, and even from further away, start sending messages of support and affection. Inside his house, Aginor sees the repercussions with surprise and humility. He never sought recognition, he just followed his heart. Livia is in his arms, her big eyes observing the world around her with curiosity. It seems our story has touched a lot of people, little one, he says, gently stroking her head. The following days are full of interviews and appearances on TV shows. Every time Aginor talks about his decision to adopt Livia, he reinforces the message of love and responsibility. She has changed my life in ways I never imagined. Being a father to Livia is a blessing, and I will do everything in my power to ensure she has a life full of love and opportunity. Aginor and Livia are invited to an event at City Hall, where the mayor wants to honor them. The hall is packed, with local authorities, citizens, and the media present. When Aginor takes the stage with Livia in his arms, the audience rises to their feet in a standing ovation. Emotion takes over Aginor. His eyes fill with tears as he thanks everyone for their support. This is proof that love and compassion can transform lives, says the mayor, presenting Aginor with a Medal of Honor. Aginor Tavares, your act of courage and dedication is an example for all of us. You showed us the true meaning of being a hero." The ovation continues, and Agenor looks at Livia, who smiles innocently in her arms. He feels a surge of pride and love. Despite all the difficulties and sacrifices, he knows that every moment is worth it. Their story is not just about a rescue, but about the strength of the bond they formed and the hope they represent. The reactions are exciting. People of all ages and origins identify with the story of Agenor and Livia. They become a symbol of hope and resilience. On social media, the hashtag Agenor and Livia goes viral, with thousands of posts celebrating her journey. Parents share their own stories of adoption and overcoming, inspired by Agenor's courage. Amid all this attention, Agenor keeps the focus on what really matters: Livia's well-being. He continues to care for her with the same dedication and love as always, showing that, in addition to being a hero, he is, above all, a dedicated father. Livia grows up surrounded by love and support, and her and Agenor's story continues to inspire many. Official recognition is a constant reminder that acts of kindness and compassion can make a monumental difference in people's lives. Every time he holds Livia in his arms, Agenor feels the strength of a love that overcomes all adversities. The Medal of Honor, the TV appearances, all of that is secondary. The real prize for Agenor is Livia's smile, the certainty that she is safe and loved, and the promise that they will always have each other. If you liked this touching story, tell me in the comments what would you do if you found an abandoned child crying in the middle of the night? Now enjoy another exciting story.